Hi you guys, it's Lisa. Thanks for stopping at my channel today. I'm sitting inside on a nice rainy day and creating a piece for you. This is a really cool piece. Look at this stencil I got. It's a different kind of stencil. It's called a screen stencil, and I'm gonna work on a 8x10 MDF board that's 3/4 inch thick, and I'm just pulling out some scraps of this bag that I thought would make a cool background. I have some cups that I was going to copy, just use some carbon paper and make prints of, but I went a different route and I'll show you how it turned out. I think it turned out really cool. So just using some matte medium down on the back of my piece and making sure that the cutout piece for my holder was on the back correctly, and it was. So I'm just using, like I said, some scraps from in my stash to create a background. I kind of liked that blue that was on that background piece, and I thought maybe I would have some of that poking through. I'm using a credit card to smooth this out a bit because we're going to do a lot of stenciling on the background, and I thought maybe that would help in the end with having a smoother background. Like I said, I'm just using matte medium to put down with a soft brush and making sure that I have everything sealed down real good. A coat underneath and a coat over the top. Then you can see some of that wallpaper scraps that I have. I'm still using up these scraps from a kitchen project that I did. Wow, it's probably 5 years ago. Now here are the cups that I had cut out and were in my stash. And where I got these from was from some old wallpaper, an old wallpaper book. And I liked the wallpaper, so I cut these cups out and I'm going to use them as focal points on this piece. I was gonna try and use some carbon paper and make kind of prints of them, but it did not turn out very well. So something to work on. I'm gonna figure out how to make these as an original, but right now I'm going to use these scraps from the wallpaper, and it really did turn out cool. Here I was noticing I had a real dry spot underneath my paper, and I just used my X-Acto knife to give it a cut and then rip that paper back, add some more matte medium underneath, and give it a good seal down. Everything's dry and I cut off the edges. And here are the 3 colors that I picked out and a stencil. The colors, there's a rusty brown color. It's called Biscotto by Allegro. I used this green that I absolutely love. It's light avocado, and that's a deco art product. And then of course my very favorite Tim Holtz Distress Paint in fossilized amber. And here is a big stencil that I had on my desk. I actually have all my stencils down on my desk, and I am going to create a video on how to organize your stencils in your craft space. And it will be coming up. I will let you know when. You need to follow my social media platforms. This is going to be something I'm going to do as a blog post, and I'm going to have the video there. So I will let you know when that comes up. Follow me on my Facebook page and my Instagram and my Pinterest, and that will lead you to my blog post. And I'm going to have a little series of things to videos for organizing your craft space. So here is the stenciled background. I super love it. and I need to push it into the background, and I'm going to use my brayer and some gesso. I have two sizes of brayer. I have this little tiny one and then the bigger one like you saw I started out with. I am not in love with that bigger brayer. I will keep it because I'm sure that I will use it in the future, but this small one is just the right size for me. So I always go back to it. I'll list it in the supplies below where you can get it, but this small one is the ideal size for me. So check it out. If you don't have a brayer, I think this one would be a good one to invest in, and I'm sure it's probably not too much, probably just a couple bucks. So like I said, I will link that below along with the paint colors and the stencil that I used if I can find it. And as you know, if I cannot find it, I find something that's pretty similar for you. And you can see that I use gesso to push that background to the back. Here I'm using my X-Acto pen blade, and I'm cutting out the handle portions of these cups. And just a self-healing mat, which is nice to have in your craft room. So I'm going to put the placement on my background here and see what it looks like. I wasn't sure how it was going to come together, but in the end, I super love this piece, and I'm really quite happy with it. So I'm going to put those down with my matte gel because the paper is a little bit thicker. Like I said, it was some wallpaper that I cut apart. So I put those down, everything is dry, and of course I'm going to use my burnt umber acrylic paint and some water and make that wash for the background, and we're going to take care of it that way. It's going to be real nice. I had a little bit too much water here for the background, but you can give it a dry and then go ahead and add more paint and water and give it another coat, and it'll get darker. So I wanted the paint and water to drip like that upside down, because doesn't it look like kind of steam from the coffee cups? I thought that was pretty cool. In the final piece, you don't see it so much, but it was an idea that I was having at the time. I thought, ooh, that kind of looks like steam in the coffee. But like I said, you'll see in the final piece how it turned out. And we're gonna just use my wet towel and give it a quick dry here. And I really liked the background. I liked it in the wallpaper in the bottom. It gave a lot of depth and dimension. And here I'm just adding another coat because I wanted it a little bit darker under those cups. And giving it another dry. Now here's that stencil. And this stencil is by Craft Smart. I will try and find it and link it below. Don't be afraid here. I cut it in half, and I was careful not to get the top of the cup cut off. But I wanted to be able just to use the word coffee here. And as I was putting it down, I just thought the stencil was too big and awkward. So I cut it in half. And don't worry, it didn't cry. I often cut my stencils up to make them work for me. And as I was looking at this stencil, I decided I needed to do some masking before I did some stenciling. And I masked off a bunch of the stencil that I wasn't going to use. You can see me looking at it right there. So I used some washi tape, took my time, and carefully masked off some of those areas that I wasn't going to use. And this is a way to make your stencils work for you, like I said. And if you take the time to do this now, you'll have so much better result than having it go through the area you don't want. Here I'm using my archival ink and my stencil brush. I'll link them below, of course, for you. And you'll see that I had a bit of a problem. Here's the reveal. And look, my ink was too watery and it squished through the stencil. My fault. I should have took a little more time and dabbed that brush off on a piece of paper. And I even knew that my stamp pad was quite wet because I had recently just re-inked it. So that's my fault. I'm gonna have to make it work, and I'll show you what I did in the end. Now I'm gonna do the top portion, and I'm not gonna use the banner. I'm just gonna use the words, all you need. And then I wasn't sure if I was gonna use the is or not, but I did decide. And you can see I'm showing you, you could use all you need is love. You could use the word good and take an O out of there, and all you need is God. God is love. You could do all kinds of things with this stencil, and I will make sure that I do some more videos so you can see some different options. Here I'm using that piece of paper, turning my project over so I can reach it better, and I am dabbing my brush onto that piece of paper. And now you can see the reveal is much, much better. It didn't leak under the bottom. And I decided I was going to use that word is. So all you need is coffee. How the background turned out. Super cute. So I'm masking it off again, taking the time to make that real nice, and it saves the time in the end. Turning the piece around so I can get to it. There's no harm in that. Excuse me. I hope everyone's staying healthy. I hope they're staying busy, not going crazy in the house. I have lots of projects, so I'm not having a problem that way, but it just seems like the time is going so quickly by us, isn't it? Now here's a stencil I had in my stash, and because I'm cleaning out my stencils, I realized that I had it. And this is one by Tim Holtz collection, and I'm looking for the name of it. I'm not sure what it is, but it looks like Coffee Splatters to me. I will link it below. And I will find out the name for you. I'm using my brown archival ink in potting soil and another of those stencil brushes. And I am using that stencil on the edge, and I thought that was really looking cool. I like this project. I'm actually going to make quite a few of these for some craft shows if they ever get started here again. Right now we're looking at June when the craft shows should be starting up. It's going to be so great if they ever do. I hope people are going to have some money so they can actually buy something, and we'll get this economy going again. I just added some little drops of coffee onto the table there. That looked kind of cool. And now I'm going to do all of my shading. And here I did not do it on camera because I wasn't sure that it was going to turn out. Now I have some black paint mixed with some airbrush medium in this small jar that you see. And I went over all of the coffee word with that, and it turned out real nice. I'll link that below also. And I thought, well, here I'm going to use some of my pan pastels to give some more depth to that coffee cup. The teal seemed like it was a really great color, and I wanted to pull those out. I love my pan pastels. Here I'm using a chalk pastel pencil and adding some of those white highlights. You can see how wonderful the shadows turned out, and I used my charcoal pencil and my watercolor pencil there and gave it some great depth and dimension. Now adding in that blue to the cup, and it really makes it pop. And those foam tools are real nice too for your pan pastels. Here I'm using some brown and adding that to the coffee from the coffee cups, and I think that this piece turned out just great. I did use my black, let's see, what is it called? It's called a paint, what is it called? Chalk marker, and it's just a creamy crayon. I don't know why they call it a marker. Chalk writer, excuse me, and I'll link it. It's by Craft Decor, and you can use your black distress crayon, like I've said before, your black marabou crayon, your black lipstick if you had some from Halloween, that would be nice. And I'm just adding it to the edge, which I like to do. I put a little bit underneath the coffee cups to add some more depth and dimension. And I also used my Signo white gel pen to give some white highlights and details to the cups and the word coffee. Turned out really great, I think. Leave your comments below. I appreciate you watching, and stay tuned for that blog post and video on how to organize all your stencils in your craft room. Stay healthy, be safe, subscribe, and we will see you again next week. Thanks so much.